The introductory lecture will be delivered by Professor Balázs Schanda. He is a professor at Pázmány-Péter Catholic University in Budapest. He graduated from the Faculty of Law of Eötvös Loránd University in 1993. He obtained his PhD in 2003, habilitated in 2010, and was granted full professorship in 2012. During his career, he has held a number of important positions. Between 1999 and 2002, he was head of the Department of Church Information and Coordination and the Ministry of National Cultural Heritage. Between 2007 and 2013, he was a dean at the Pázmány-Péter Catholic University. He has been a long-standing member of the European Consortium for Church and State Research, where he also served as the chairman. And since 2016, he has been a judge of the Hungarian Constitutional Court. Professor Schanda is the author of numerous publications on different aspects of religious freedom and church-state relations, as well as constitutional law. Let me mention his monograph, Religion and Law in Hungary, whose second edition was published in 2015 by Kluwer Law International. His today's talk is called Religion or Culture: The Protection of the Cultural Identity versus State Neutrality and the Lack of Faith. Balázs, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Professor Stanis. Maybe those present in the meeting don't know that we know each other for quite some time, and I think we can say that we are good friends. I'm trying to share my screen for a moment. I wonder if it will work. Do you see a picture in your screen? I would need some kind of feedback. Does anyone recognize the person in the picture? Little game. A lady with some roses, a castle in the background. Does the picture has any kind of suggestion, impression for you? It is a painting painted in the 30s by a Hungarian painter. He was, in fact, a Protestant himself, and he painted this picture under the title Saint Elizabeth of Hungary. Saint Elizabeth, the Miracle of Roses, is, I think, a very well-known story. Elizabeth is a very popular name in Hungary. You must have at least an aunt who is called Elizabeth. If not, then a cousin of your aunt. If even not, then your grandmother has to be Elizabeth. It's one of the most popular first names, which is second name, so in Hungarian. It's one of the most popular first names in Hungary. A few years ago, this picture turned up at an auction under the title Art Deco Lady with Flowers. It will sell for more than 20,000 euros, so it is regarded as a, well, I think I couldn't paint a picture that could be sold for 20,000 euros. She is a very popular saint, and actually for arts, the 20s, 30s have a good market nowadays in Hungary. But still, What could be the reason that the painting somewhere, sometime has lost its original title? A few years ago, just a few weeks before Christmas, so in Advent time, I had a train ride from Stuttgart to Strasbourg. Uh, Probably you all know that it's not so easy to fly to get a decent flight to Strasbourg, but to Stuttgart there are low-cost flights. So I took a flight to Stuttgart and then a short train ride to Strasbourg. On the railway station of Stuttgart, there was a huge Christmas tree. And under the Christmas tree, all the important figures of the nativity scene, uh, full-size carved wood, wonderful statues, donkey and ox, and everyone who is necessary for a nativity scene. Also on the railway station of Strasbourg, there was a Christmas tree, a small one, but still a Christmas tree. And under the Christmas tree, there were dwarfs, Smurfs. Well, people still knew that, well, it's Christmas time, shopping season, or something like that. And something cute has to be put under the tree, but no word, no sign of the original meaning. Well, what is a constitution for? A constitution is a place of memory. Uh, if we still have a consensus on certain values, on certain, we share certain values, but maybe we feel that these values are endangered, then it could be reasonable to put them down before we forget it. Well, Saint Elizabeth, uh, a very important saint for Hungarian history in the 1200s. Hungary was, I think, quite successful in exporting princesses. I saw here on the list that one of the participants is a Kinga, Jolanta, or we could give a longer list of princesses who were married, for example, to the royal house of Poland, but to other royal courts as well. Um, in if you open the Constitution of Hungary, the fundamental law or the basic law, there are two different possible translations of the Constitution. Then the very first sentence may need some kind of explanation for a foreigner. The very first sentence is God bless the Hungarians. There are no quotation marks. It's even before the preamble. It's a kind of a motto. But even without quotation marks, all Hungarians know that this is the first sentence of our national anthem. That is a poem from 1823, well, almost 200 years old. And of course, the national anthem is a prayer that is sung at church events at the end of the mass or other major events. But it's also sung in a football stadium. And for some people, it has just a simple meaning of unity. That's not a simple meaning in itself, even, but for other people, it may have an additional meaning, an added meaning. It's for other people, it's a prayer, but it is a document. It's a text that is uniting, I think, all Hungarians, and not excluding those who are non-believers or non-Christian. When you begin to read the text, we have a very long preamble, but also the preamble of the Constitution of Poland is quite long, but ours is, I think, still a bit longer. The previous constitution had a very short preamble. This new one has a fairly long one. Then at the very beginning, it has two important elements that refer to the Christian legacy of the country. One is a reference to the first king of Hungary, Saint Stephen, who made Hungary as part of Christian Europe 1,000 years ago. And the other remark is a recognition of the role of Christianity in preserving nationhood. Well, both statements look at the past. Saint Stephen has lived 1,000 years ago, and the text only says that Europe was a Christian continent 1,000 years ago. To be member of the club, you had to become a Christian. And the reference to Christianity is a fairly utilitarian one. The reference to Christianity says that, well, we recognize Christianity as something that has served the nationhood. It is not a recognition of a religion in itself for the value of itself, but the recognition of the role of Christianity in preserving the nationhood. When you go deeper into the text, we have an interesting article R at the beginning, at the first part of the Constitution. It is an article about the interpretation of the fundamental law. And section 4 of article 4 reads that the protection of the constitutional identity and Christian culture of Hungary shall be an obligation of every organ of the state. The protection of the Christian culture of Hungary. I put the sentence into the chat box. Well, culture is a fruit of faith, and to have a Christian culture, you may need centuries. It took centuries that in a way or another Christianity has fertilized the antiquity for Dante to write the Divine Comedy. It's the first Christians didn't leave behind major artistic artwork or anything like that. It took a long time and a complexity. But what the Constitution protects is not Christianity, it is the Christian culture of Hungary. Christianity is universal, but it is not about Christianity. It is not about the universal Christianity. It's not about Christian faith. It is about the given Christian culture of Hungary, making the assumption that this culture is still Christian by its origin, by its nature, by its nature, I could say. It says in a country where the majority of citizens declare to be Christian, but religiosity and especially churchliness, as sociologists say, is fairly low in Hungary. Well, it's higher certainly than in the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic is more secular than us, but it is definitely significantly lower than in Poland or in Croatia, or even than the religiosity in Slovakia. Maybe 10%, and that's an optimistic percentage, would be a regular churchgoer who would be there at church every week or at least several times a month. Approximately half of the people has a link to the church. The majority of newborn kids are still baptized, but many don't have when you turn it upside down, you can see that almost half of the kids are not baptized anymore, not even baptized anymore. But still, when we speak in the everyday Hungarian language, then the first name, that is the second name, of course, for us, the first name is usually referred as a Christian name. And people feel offended when, if would feel offended if someone would say that, well, you don't have a Christian name, you are not even baptized, and maybe your name is not even a Christian name, it's a pagan name. Some pagan names are very popular in Hungary nowadays. Still, St. Nicholas on the 6th of December is bringing chocolate and candy for all the kids, including Protestants and including agnostics. There is a general culture that is a consequence, that is a fruit of a Christian tradition. But when you imagine this as a kind of a tree, what the Constitution protects is just the fruits of this tree. The tree is bringing fruits of a Christian faith of centuries. But the Constitution has no, or the state in general, has no power in safeguarding the roots of the tree. That is left to the people, and no one else can take over this task, this burden. Does it make sense still to protect this legacy if we are not able, if the state is not able to safeguard its roots, to safeguard the tree itself? The state is just, we could say, interested in the fruits. It is something like the very famous Böckenförde dictum would say that the state, that is a secular state nowadays, is depending on preconditions that were not made by it, and the state cannot even uphold these preconditions. These preconditions, the value setting, is set by families, by religious communities, by all kinds of units that society may have, and depends on them. And even a minority, if a minority is a creative minority, then a minority can serve as a yeast, and it can still determine the general culture of a country. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, in his famous novel 100 Years of Solitude, writes about the mythical town of Macondo out in the swamp, and Macondo is hit by a strange disease, a disease where people are losing their memory. They are losing the names and the notion of things. But they try to fight this disease. They try to combat this disease. And pretty much I believe that Europe, or our cultures we are living, is confronted to a similar kind of disease, a disease of losing the meaning of things. And the way village dwellers, if you remember the novel, try to fight this disease is that they label things. They put the names on little tags on things, or give small instructions. This is a cow, it could give you milk, you should milk it twice a day, etc. And they surround themselves with these little memo tags, and they put two bigger tablets. One is written, one is put at the beginning of the road where you enter from the swamp to the village, and they write the name of the village there, Macondo. Well, they shouldn't forget where they live. And they put another major billboard kind of big sign in the center of the village with the short message, God exists. Maybe a constitution could serve for a generation as such a billboard, as a place of memory, where we can put down the values we believe in, and when we have an endangered consensus, then this endangered consensus can be safeguarded in this way, can be preserved this way, at least for a while. I think this could be part of the vocation a constitution or a state can have, upholding the thesis that the future, the fate, the destiny of it, whether it can be filled with content or not, is depending on many other elements that go beyond the competency of the state. I'm very honored that I could talk to this talk at this conference. I'm very curious about the findings of your comparative research. Interestingly, Madl Institute and the Institute of Justice in Warsaw has put two parallel meetings on the same day, and it happens the first time to me that I should be talking on both. And in the Middle Ages, there were some saints who were saint enough to bilocate. I'm not at that level of sanctity yet, but I hope that I will have the chance to read the findings of the research done. Thank you for your kind attendance.